I'm really excited to start this new series called It's Fine. And this is going to be a 3-week series. And I want to address the men for a second, please don't tune out. For some reason, growing up, no matter what generation you were born in, you've been told things like, suck it up. It's fine. Get over it. Have a toughen up. Right? We've been told from such a young age that it's weak to show any emotion. And so we might be a bit behind the 8 ball. Hey, women, maybe the same case is for you. But I know for men, this is something particular. So please don't tune out for the next 3 weeks. We are going to be getting all up in your emotions. Okay? I would say this to youth. We're going to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. And so please don't tune out, because I think that over the next 3 weeks, there's going to be some very big breakthrough that happens in your life. And you know people, right, that you just wish that they wouldn't say it's fine. You know people in your life, maybe it's your mom, your dad, your grandpa, your uncle, your aunt, your friend, your teacher, whoever it is, you wish they would just stop saying it's fine. You wish they would stop brushing their problems under the rug. I've told this before, but I don't do this anymore. Maybe last year I did. I used to sweep we have a RoboVac since, but I used to sweep the kitchen. And I would just sweep the kitchen dirt under the fridge so I wouldn't have to deal with it. Okay? Judge me all you want. Wives, talk to your husband, see if they've done that before. But I would just sweep the dirt underneath the fridge. The reality is, if we ever move that fridge, the mess is still there, right? I wasn't dealing with the mess. I was just making that a future problem. So often, people in our lives, maybe this is you, we make our emotions a future problem. We say, I'm too busy to deal with this right now. I haven't been taught how to deal with this right now. Don't you wish there are some people in your lives that, you're just walking on eggshells. You're worried to say the wrong thing because they're just going to snap at you. I'm sure there are some people in your lives you would wish they would stop saying it's fine and they would enter into how they're actually feeling. They would actually face up to their emotions. Because it's obvious to everyone around them that that's what's going on, but maybe for them, they just can't see it. Because we know this, right? Men, women, everyone in this room, that when we face our emotions, when we don't just bury them, but we deal with them, you're going to become the best version of yourself. There's going to be an incredible weight that gets released from your shoulders, and you're going to be more pleasant to be around. You're probably going to be a better husband, a better father. You're probably going to be a better wife, a better mother. You're going to be a better sibling. You're going to be a better friend. When we face with what we're actually dealing with, maybe it's something that happened when you were a kid and it's been carrying in your life ever since. When we face with what we're actually dealing with, you're going to be the best version of yourself. There's going to be something that's released from your life and you can just feel free. And so maybe for you, you just know that lately you've been snapping a little bit more. You've been on edge. People have been worried to actually ask you a question because they're afraid. Maybe at work, you're just snapping at your coworkers or your colleagues. It's time we face up and deal with our emotions. Our physical hygiene is a huge industry, isn't it? It's a huge industry. You've got your shampoos, your conditioners. We always buy shampoo and conditioner together, but conditioner, you don't use it as much. So I don't know about you, but we always have like 10 conditioners in our house and no shampoo because they're always a package deal. But a deodorant, antiperspirant, razors, shaving cream, soap, our physical makeup, our physical hygiene is a booming industry, rightfully so. It's important for us to keep up our physical hygiene. When it became a big deal in the world, life expectancy went longer. People were avoiding preventable diseases because we learned how to look after ourselves. We learned how to stay clean. We realized the importance of our physical hygiene. Dental hygiene is the same thing, right? Dental hygiene is very important for us to keep our teeth nice and clean, to floss, to keep our gums healthy. We know the importance of our physical hygiene. We invest time into it. We invest money into it. You might shower 3 times a day because we live in Townsville and you're always sweating. We know what it is to keep up our physical hygiene. But when it comes to our emotional hygiene, when it comes to our mental health, do you invest as much time into that as you do your physical hygiene? Do you know how to invest into your emotional hygiene? Let's be honest, I'd rather lose a tooth than lose my mind. When we step back and realize how important it is to actually invest into our emotional hygiene, to face what we're feeling, to not say it's fine, to not say that's a later problem. When we face up to it, you're going to be the best version of yourself. And so, what is emotional hygiene? What is it? We're going to be talking about this for the next 3 weeks because it's my hope and it's my desire that over the next 3 weeks, you can break free from whatever you've buried down deep. And I don't want you to have to go and look for something that's not there, but some of you have stuff that you've just pushed down the line. And maybe over the next 3 weeks, it's time for you to deal with it. So in much the same way that dental hygiene involves brushing your teeth and flossing every day, personal hygiene involves cleaning ourselves and taking care of our physical injuries when we sustain them. Emotional hygiene refers to the mindful of our psychological health and adopting a brief daily habits to monitor and address our psychological wounds when we sustain them. Right? When we sustain our psychological wounds, don't just say that's a later problem. No, we address them right there, right then. Just like you would a wound. You wouldn't let a wound get infected. Let's not let our emotional wounds get infected. Currently, our general neglect of our emotional hygiene is so profound. It's so profound because we've been told things all of our life that it's weak to speak. It's weak to speak on how we're actually doing. I've done this program before called Strength, right? We teach our young men in our world that being strong is having muscles and being buff and hiding all of our emotions and being just firm where we are. But what I believe is being strong is being able to deal with what's going on inside. You need to have a level of self-reflection in your life, right? We all walk down the street or walk down the mall and see your reflection in the mirror, and you might see how your hair is looking, check yourself out a little bit. Every single day, we need to do a self-reflection on how we're going on in the inside, about what's going on. How am I feeling? Have I not dealt with something? Is there a reason why I'm not acting myself? And just so you know, for me, this is something that I've struggled with for a very long time. I've struggled with bearing how I'm feeling. I've struggled with opening up. Maybe it's because I actually didn't know how I'm feeling. When I talk about an emotional wound, I might not be talking about something that happens, just one big traumatic event, but the little things that build up and build up and build up. You've got your bottle. You've got your emotional bottle. You say, I've got a wound in this bottle. I've put a coin in this bottle. It's not full. I don't have to deal with it. I'll deal with that later. And then something else happens. Something else goes in the bottle. And then something else happens. Something else goes in the bottle. Eventually, that bottle gets full because you're not dealing with how you're doing. And then that one little thing that would normally cause no issue is going to make you overflow. It's going to make you explode. And so what my hope, my desire for you is we can empty out your emotional bottles. We know this, that the later we choose to deal with stuff, the greater the consequence of it is. The later we choose to deal with the stuff that's going on in our life, the later we choose to address the mess, the greater the consequences of it is. You can say it like this: later problems become greater problems. That when you deal with it right away, it's not that big of a deal, but if you let it linger, if you let it dwell in your life, it's going to become a greater problem. Why not deal with it now? Why wait until things get more intense? Later problems become greater problems. I'll give you an example of this. In October last year, I think I've shared this every week for the last month, but I hurt my ankle in October of last year, and I didn't do the necessary recovery at that time to make it heal, right? I didn't do the right physio exercises. I didn't probably go to the correct doctors and do the right strength to strengthen the muscles around it. If I had done so, my recovery probably would have been 6 weeks. But we're almost in October again a year later, and the injury is still lingering, and it's a lot harder to recover because the later problem becomes a greater problem. It's like going to the dentist. I don't know if you've had your wisdom teeth removed, but if you haven't because you're worried about the pain that's going to cause, your dentist saying you need to get those wisdom teeth removed, and you're saying, no, I'm fine. What the dentist knows is that's going to cause you some bigger problems in the future than if you deal with it right now. Later problems become greater problems. My assumption for you today, this isn't a big assumption, but I assume that you're either in the room or you've decided to watch online because you want to change. You want to grow. I don't think there's anybody in this room that doesn't want to be a better version of themselves tomorrow than you are today. My assumption is that because you are here, we want to grow. We want to get better. I think that's a pursuit in our life, to become the best versions of ourselves that God created us to be. And so that's my assumption that I have for you today. People who don't are a mystery to me, right? People that decide they don't want to be the best version of themselves, it's a bit of a mystery. Why wouldn't you want to be the better version of yourself? You must have a desire to change and grow, right? Because there's a future you. There's a future you. There's the best version of you, and then there's where you currently are. What we want to do is we want to close the gap. We want to close the gap between the best version of you, which is someone that has dealt with their emotions, someone that has dealt with what they're going through, somebody that actually knows how to deal with what they've been going through, and where you currently are, and we want to shut the gap. And I want to take a quick time out here because I am so for counseling. If something comes up in this series where you just don't know how to handle it, go. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a professional therapist. Go see a counselor. Just take that step. Take that step to go see a counselor, because that is not me. But we want to close the gap. I saw a bumper sticker online, and it was pretty funny because it's so true. It said this. It said, there are only two things that I don't like. Only two things I don't like. Change and the way things are. Those are the only two things that we don't like. Change and the way things currently are. And so maybe you're sitting here today and you have every right to feel bitter. You have every right to dig your heels in the ground and say, it's this person's fault. I don't have to deal with what I'm going through. It's their fault anyways. Maybe you've been through some traumatic experiences in your life and you said, John, I don't want to take that step. And you have every right to feel that way. You have every right to feel a tension. We want to address the tension, though, because you have every right to feel that way, but it's not going to help you to stay that way. You have every right to feel that way, but it's not going to help you stay that way. What I want us to not do, and this is something that we do, is we talk ourselves out of our emotional hygiene, right? We talk ourselves out of dealing with what we're going through. Maybe you've said this before. Maybe some people in your lives have said this before. You say, it's fine. You say it's fine. You say it's fine because you just want them to leave you alone. You don't want to actually address what you're going through. You say, no, it's fine. And then you want to go and curl into a ball or whatever and just get away from people as fast as you can. You say, it's fine. It hasn't affected me that much. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's not that big of a deal. Maybe to you this seems like a big deal, but I've been taught my whole life to say it's not a big deal. Maybe it hasn't been with words, but maybe the way your parents lived their lives, they would just say, it's no big deal. Not a big deal. It's not my fault anyway. It's their fault. Why should I have to deal with it? It's their fault. It's not affecting me. It's fine. It's no big deal. I'm too busy to deal with what I'm going through right now. We talk ourselves out of our emotional hygiene every single day. You ever talked yourself out of a shower? Please don't. You'll stink. You ever talked yourself out of not cleaning a wound? Please don't. you'll get infected. Why do we talk ourselves out of dealing with our emotional hygiene and something that's the most important thing in our life when we don't talk ourselves out of all the other hygiene? We need to address the messes in our lives. So, what did God say about this? What does the Bible talk in terms of our emotional hygiene? I'm going to read a Bible verse that most of you have heard. If you haven't, that's okay, because we're all going to get on the same page here. And I want you to read this Bible verse in a new frame of light. Maybe you haven't read this before in this frame of light, and I hope that this is something that you can do right now. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? And so let's think about this in terms of emotional hygiene. Why are you so quick to help other people with their problems when you're not ready to deal with your own problems? Why are you so quick to help others when you're not ready to help yourself? I'm not saying to be self-absorbed and a selfish person, but if we want to truly help other people, we have to learn how to help ourselves. If you want to help people with their emotional hygiene, well, start to get your own right. You've heard the phrase, love your neighbor as yourself. You need to know how to love yourself before you can love your neighbor. If you want to know how to deal with other people's emotional hygiene, start to pay attention to the 2x4 that's in your own eye instead of the little speck of dust in your brother's eye. How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? I mean, you're not going to even be able to see the speck correctly if you're blinded by what's going on in your own life. Next slide. You hypocrite. Easy, Jesus. Don't be so serious. Don't be so upfront with us. No, you hypocrite. First, take the plank out of your own eye. First, deal with your own emotional hygiene. And then you'll be able to see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. To make that maybe make more sense to you, before you help your brother, help yourself. Maybe you've never heard someone in church to tell you to be so selfish, but I want you to be selfish. Why? Because if you don't help yourself, you won't be able to help others in the future. If you can't deal with what's going on in your own life, you won't be able to help your brother out. The question that I have for you right now is, do you know where you are emotionally? Are there things that you've buried down deep? Maybe it's just become the norm. Maybe it's just normal for you to feel this way, but it's not healthy. Do you know where you are emotionally? Because here's the reality. You need to know where you are in order to get to where you want to be. You've all been to a shopping center where there's a new store, and maybe it's in a new town for you, and you don't know where the store is, and you need to go to like the directory, the map of where everything is. And then there's the grid and the map of where that store is, but you need to know where that star is, right? It says you are here. If you don't know where you are on that map, you're not going to be able to find the right way to get to where you need to be. In life, you need to know where you currently are in order to get to where you want to be. Do you know where you are right now emotionally? If you don't, I want to encourage you to start to process that in your own life. Maybe if you're married, this is an exercise that you can do with your husband or your wife. To start to break down the barriers, to take the calluses off your hearts. So often, the longer we let things linger in our lives, we just become shut off, right? We shut the world off, and we don't want to let anybody else in. Well, it's time to let people in. Time to let trusted people in. It's time to deal with your emotional hygiene. So, how do we do that, you ask? Well, I'm just going to really quickly give you 3 tips. I don't want to give you all the information just today because we got another 2 weeks, but here it is. We got to pay attention to our emotional pain. You got to pay attention to the emotional pain. Pain gets our attention, doesn't it? We got to pay attention to the tension. It allows us to see our failings for what they really are and the danger they pose to our souls. This is so much more than just a little scrape on your arm. We're talking about our souls here. This is something that cuts deep into our lives. You need to pay attention to the emotional pain that's been going on in your life. We need to have a level of self-reflection. Self-reflection. It's the skill of taking yourself apart every day. Not once a week, not once a month, not once a year, not once a generation. No. Every single day, sort of take yourself apart and go, how am I doing right now emotionally? Is there anything that I'm burying down? Do I need to address the mess that's in my own life right now? Because we can't help take care of other people until you can deal with yourself. King David states this so well in a book of Psalms. And if you've read the Bible or you've never read the Bible, or maybe you tried to start reading the Bible and you found it boring, I'd encourage you to go to the book of Psalms to try to get those juices flowing again. He says this. That's meant to say when, not hen. Take it how you want. When you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. When you're on your bed, search your hearts and be silent. It's so hard for us to be silent in these days, isn't it? To be still, to be silent, to lay in bed and not have our phones dinging, to lay in bed and not have a show on in the background, but to be silent. Find time to have silence and solitude in our life. Slow down. The world's going to keep spinning, but it's not going to end. Slow down. Find time to search your hearts and be silent. Emotional curiosity requires quiet and solitude. If it takes 15 minutes of boredom before kids get creative, it's going to take you a few minutes of solitude to get you thinking about what's really there. It might not happen right away, but don't get distracted. Keep just searching. Don't be on an agenda here. Just don't try to rush it and say, where is it? No. Slow down. Search your hearts. Be silent. Maybe that's at the end of the day for you, or maybe that's at the beginning of the day for you. I don't know. But we need to have a level of curiosity in our life, because curiosity is an attribute of humility, right? Arrogant people don't ask questions. Arrogant people don't need to search their hearts because they know what's already there. Arrogant people know everything, and so they don't need to be curious. They don't need to have humility. But I know you're all here in this room and online. I know you are people of humility, and I know that this is something that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to have a level of curiosity in your life. King David says this one as well. He says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting." Search me. That's a dangerous invitation, but I want to encourage you to make that invitation to God. God, search my heart. Reveal to me what's actually going on in there. Help me see if there's any unpure thought, if there's any level of worry, if there's something that I need to deal with right now before it becomes a greater problem later. David, he just models for us the ruthless curiosity of what he's feeling as he's measured against the standard God has prescribed. He's saying to God, if it's offensive to you, it's not healthy to me. If there's something in my heart that's offensive to you, then I know it's not healthy to me. Help me deal with it. Help me confront it right now. Right? And I've just said this, but I'll say it again. Arrogant people don't ask questions. They already know everything there is to know. And I know that you're not someone that's arrogant, and so that's really good. We don't even need to talk about that. Number 2, recognize a wide array of emotions, right? Sometimes we don't actually learn what our emotions are, and so we go, what am I feeling? Go and watch the movie Inside Out if you want to learn about emotions. It's a Disney movie. It's a great one. But here's an emotional wheel, just so you can know what sort of emotions are out there. You've got the main ones in the middle, and then each one has its own little branch there. Just Google emotional wheel if you want to maybe carry this around. Maybe you have to expand your vocabulary. Maybe these are words that you just haven't actually been taught. We need to know what our emotions are for us to deal with them You got sad, dislike, alone, angry, embarrassed, afraid. Carry this around. If you don't know how to communicate how you're doing, just point to it. I'm this. That's the caveman side of us. I'm this. Sometimes we struggle to talk how we're actually doing. So put this on the fridge. Put this on the fridge and just point to it, or in the toilet, or wherever you go every day. Number 3, make a determination for the emotion. Make a determination for the emotion. What are the habits we need to make a determination? It may be to recognize when you're tired, hungry, or hurting. Because emotions are messenger. Emotions are messengers, right? They're trying to tell you something about how you're doing. You know that in your brain that when you start to feel hungry, oh, I should eat. And maybe you're starting to feel angry. I should deal with that. Maybe you're starting to feel sad. I should deal with that. Maybe you're starting to feel anxious. What's going on beneath the surface that I have to address right now to take that anxiety away? You need to know what to do. Our emotions are all messengers. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? What am I feeling? Just make that your exercise every single day. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? You know that if you're, sorry, I know I'm going a bit longer, but I got to tell a really quick, funny story. Yesterday, I was feeling really sore in my back. I was like, what's going on? I haven't done any form of physical exercise to make me feel this sore. Why am I so sore? And after this, I messaged a friend of mine and said, we need to start exercising again because this is bad. I was throwing paper airplanes with my son for a day, and that caused the most amount of pain in my arm that I've ever felt before from little paper airplanes. And so I went, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? In our emotions, what are you feeling? Why are you feeling this? Emotional hygiene, recognizing what I'm feeling and knowing what to do with what I'm feeling. That's what it is. You're not going to skip a shower. Don't skip out on your emotional hygiene. Recognize what you're feeling and then learn to know what to do with what you are feeling. Why on earth do I have to have this experience? Can't I just skim the surface and not touch the depths of my upset? Why do I have to deal with it? Maybe that's the question you're asking. Well, I addressed that at the beginning. This is going to make you the best version of yourselves. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to continue this It's Fine series because you know this and I know this. Often when we say it's fine, it's really not. And it's my desire for you, church, and watching online, that we would close the gap between the best version of ourselves and where we currently are. If you're at the best version of yourself, and I know every day we can get better, but congratulations. But I think if we were to be honest, there are things that we just need to address. We need to address the mess in our souls. God, we thank you for today. Thank you that you don't just need us to be at a perfect spot to engage with us, Father, but it's a journey and you want to journey these things with us. Thank you that we can come as we are into your presence and that you can do this with us. God, just as King David said, would you search our hearts? Search our hearts for anything unclean, anything that is that needs to be dealt with. Anything that's offensive to you isn't healthy to us. So search our hearts, highlight these things that we need to address, because God, we want to be the best versions that you created us to be. Thank you for this time. In Jesus' name, amen.